What we're looking at here is HMS Richmond, a Type 23 frigate of the British Royal Navy. She is one of the country's longest-serving warships. Designed to hunt down Russian subs, these days she is just as likely to be found in the Middle East shooting drones out of the sky. Richmond and the 7 other Duke-class warships are still the backbone of Britain's fleet. So, what made her so good in the first place, and how has she adapted to the modern battlefield? We're going to break down how her weapon systems work, go aboard to see them for ourselves, and speak to her crew to find out. First, let's take a look at how Richmond solves the problem it was designed to solve: protecting the Navy from the threat of Russian submarines. The solution comes in 2 parts. There's the ship itself, and then there's the helicopter she stores back here in her hangar. Perhaps counterintuitively, it's actually the helicopter that takes on the primary role. This is the Merlin Mark II, and it has been specially adapted with folding rotor blades and a folding tail section to fit neatly aboard the warship. As you can see, even with the folding sections, it's a very tight fit. There's a pulley system to take the helicopter out onto the helipad, like so, at which point the rotors and tail are unfolded like this, and she runs up her engines and takes off like this. We'll do another video going into the Merlin in more depth, but for now, all you need to know is it is equipped with an array of powerful sonar and radar. They're designed to pick up submarines hiding beneath the waves and relay their location back to the ship. The reason for this is simple. If they were placed on the ship itself, then by the time they picked up the submarine would also be able to see the ship. That puts Richmond and any of the other vessels she's escorting at serious risk of being sunk by a torpedo. By placing them on the helicopter, it massively extends the range of the sensors, meaning Richmond can see the sub before she is spotted in return. And that gives her crucial time to decide what to do about the threat. First and foremost, she can order the Merlin to try and take the submarine down. The helicopter can carry up to 4 Stingray torpedoes, each packed with 100 pounds of explosives, which are launched down into the water. They then use signals from the helicopter and their own onboard sensors to find the submarine and explode beneath it rather than crashing into it. This is designed to create an air bubble, which forces the submarine sharply upwards and then back down again, with the aim of breaking it in half. That will obviously flood the submarine and cause it to sink to the bottom of the ocean. If, for whatever reason, the helicopter is unable to take out the submarine, then Richmond has torpedoes of its own that it can use. There's 4 of them, stored behind these hatches, 2 on the port side and 2 on the starboard side. When fired, the hatches open and the torpedo is shot out and over the side of the ship and into the water. Obviously, these are the torpedoes that Richmond doesn't want to use, because by this point, the sub will be close enough to shoot back. If it does, then the ship has a clever trick up its sleeve. These tubes up here are often mistaken for the torpedo canisters, but in fact, they contain decoys. These shoot out over the side of the ship, just like the torpedoes, but then land close to her side. They then run down the length of the ship and into her wake. The idea is that any incoming missile or torpedo that's locked onto the ship will get confused and follow the decoy instead. Think of it like the chaff that's shot out the back of aircraft, only for warships. Submarine hunting may be Richmond's speciality, but it's far from the only thing she can do. In fact, it was only last year that she was shooting down Houthi drones in the Red Sea. So, how has this old girl adapted to life on the modern battlefield? Well, if we take a walk onto the bow of the ship, then we get part of the answer. This is Sea Scepter, a silo of 32 pods, each with an anti-air missile inside, known as CAMM, or Common Anti-Air Modular Missile. The Type 23s were designed without these, but Britain's experience in the Falklands, where multiple ships were sunk or damaged by attacks from the air, forced a rethink. Powerful radar at the top of the ship's tallest mast scans the skies around her for any incoming threats. That includes enemy aircraft, missiles, and drones. The radar will then track the threat and calculate an intercept course for one of the missiles. When the order is given to fire, compressed gas launches the missile out of its tube, breaking through the end cap and into the air. Small motors in the tail then adjust it so it's pointing at the target, at which point the main motor fires up and sends it on its way. The radar keeps communicating with the missile in flight, telling it the location of the target. Only in the final stages does a radar in the nose of the missile take over, ensuring maximum accuracy. It was this system which was used to shoot down the Houthi drones we saw earlier. Those aren't the only missiles the ship carries, however. Inside these big rectangular tubes are the much newer naval strike missiles. Instead of flying through the air, these are designed to skim low to the water. This makes them very hard to detect and shoot down, allowing them to sneak up and destroy other warships or targets on land. This here is the ship's 4.5-inch gun. It fires 55-pound shells, which can hit a target accurately more than 16 miles away. The ship carries around 300 of these shells, which are loaded by hand into a feeder ring below deck, kind of like the giant version of a cylinder you'd get on a revolver, which then feeds them up and into the gun. There's a ball you can see just up here, which is how the gunner sees and locks onto whatever he or she is trying to hit. They can then choose to fire 3 kinds of shells. A dummy round, which is used for training or to send a warning, a shot across the bows, so to speak, an illumination round, which lights up like a giant flare, or a high explosive round, which is designed to blow up enemy warships. Taking a step down in firepower, this is the ship's small caliber gun. This fires 30mm shells at targets up to 2 miles away. There's a seat here, which the gunner can use to fire the weapon manually, but fortunately for them, the gun is actually fully automated and can be controlled from inside the ship. The chair is just for emergencies. This is designed to take out small surface ships, say patrol boats or boat drones. Then there's the 50 caliber Browning machine guns. These have about the same range as the 30mm guns, but fire a much less powerful 50 caliber bullet. These are useful when Richmond's crew has to board another ship, say to search it for drugs or weapons, to make sure nobody on the enemy vessel makes any sudden moves. They can also be used as a final line of defense in case an enemy somehow manages to sneak past Richmond's other, much more advanced weapon systems. Last but not least, there's the ship's crew, her most valuable asset. What you're looking at here is the bridge, from where the vessel is commanded and steered. Here, communications officers, officers of the watch, navigators, and the captain receive orders and then carry them out. To do that, they're in constant communication with teams like this one in the control room. This is where those orders are turned into actions. In this case, engines are powered up or down to increase or decrease speed. We spoke to Richmond's navigations officer to find out more about what it's like to steer a warship at sea.
So when you've got multiple units working together, you would put them into a screen to ensure that for safety of navigation, the units don't cross over into each other's waters. So we were making sure that everybody was assigned the correct sector so that we could safely conduct all of our serials and exercises. So we've got our tactical operator. They will remain on headset for the duration of their watch. They are in direct communications with all units within CSG. It'll all come through encrypted and they will decode the signals so that we can get our directions as where we need to go into our screens. This is the main position you'll have for somebody who's executing the navigation. They'll have charge of the ship. They'll use visual bearings with our gyro compass here, as well as the radars to assess where we are. The final station we've got here is the QM's panel. So the quartermaster's panel, the person that's hands on the wheel and on the telegraphs driving the ship under the direction of the officer of the watch or the second officer of the watch. From here, the telegraph system is a direct screen that goes down to our ship's control center. So we don't have physical control of the engines up on the bridge. That's controlled by the engineers down in the control center. But what we do have up here is the ship's wheel, which it's currently in auto, which is why they're not got their hands on the wheel. But if we were to take it in hand, they would then steer the ship.
These are the kitchens. From here, a team of chefs prepare 3 meals a day, every day, for the roughly 200 people on board.
So it's usually busy. We do all the preps for dinner and then we smash it out. Get everybody fed, everybody happy. We have two freezers, with meats alone.
Right.
Yeah, because we're feeding a lot of people and guess what? We're doing a lot of lifting and all of that. So we need the protein and that's why we have so many meats here and stuff.
This is the medical bay, essentially a floating hospital where anyone on board can come for treatment for a whole range of illnesses. And in the event of a battle at sea, where any of the casualties would be treated.
So if you have a look over this way here, we've got 3 medical bergens on the bunk there, the lower bunk, and those are one for myself, one for the leading medic, one for the medic. And those contain all of our emergency life-saving gear if there is a casualty or a critical incident or emergency out or about on the ship. But we act as our own pharmacy, so pretty much all of these cupboards up here full of drugs, and that's anything from this cupboard full of simple stuff like paracetamol, ibuprofen, nif-naf like that, to inside a couple of these cupboards we've got locked away our controlled drugs, things like morphine, ketamine, diazepam, etc. for more serious issues.
Here's one of the mess rooms, areas dotted around the ship where people can come and relax, have a drink and a chat during their downtime. There are similar areas in each of the dorms, which you can see here, alongside the bunks, with most of the crew sleeping in fairly cramped 3-person racks.
So every single member of ship's company down the JR's end is going to get one of these lockers. It's not very big. You've also got an overhead locker where you can put your random bits and bobs in, and then there's also a bat locker, which is you can put your bats in there. There's a little tiny locker. We've also got an under scoop, like a boot scoop, so that can pull out. And then our bunks are 3 high back here, so that's my bunk up there, and you can decorate it however you want. You've got curtains that draw for a bit of privacy, so we've got 18 beds in here, 6 down here, 3 and 3, and then 6 down the end. Pegs for OVs that they put on there, and that's about it.
As you can see from us moving around, Richmond is pretty compact, but actually speaking to her crew and the crew of larger warships, this is viewed as something of a bonus, because she's much smaller, say, than the Prince of Wales aircraft carrier, which has a crew of 1,600. Everyone knows everyone, and there's a real community feel to it. All of this means that Richmond and the 7 other Type 23 frigates still in service with the Royal Navy are extremely capable. Their speciality was and remains submarine hunting. That could well become an extremely important job in the future, given the way relations with China and Russia are going. Outside of the West, these 2 nations possess some of the most advanced submarines on the planet. When we went aboard Richmond, she was in the Indo-Pacific, doing precisely this job not all that far from the Chinese coast. She was there as part of a carrier strike group, an escort of ships that sails alongside and protects an aircraft carrier. The carrier in question was the Prince of Wales, which we've covered in more detail in these 2 videos. Of all the vessels that protect a carrier like that, the role of the submarine hunter is perhaps the most vital. Subs are extremely dangerous to warships, and carriers especially so because they're so large and easy to spot. A single submarine could easily sink this £3.5 billion warship if she's not properly protected. And that's exactly what Richmond and the other Duke-class frigates exist to do. But for most of Richmond's 30-year life, Britain has been facing down opponents who don't have any subs. So this old girl has been forced to adapt to other forms of warfare, like shooting down drones. That's where her newer weapons, like Sea Scepter and the Naval Strike Missile, come in. This has turned the Type 23 from an anti-sub specialist into something of an all-rounder. These days, there's very few missions these warships are not equipped to deal with, and that helps explain why the Type 23 has been in service for so long, and why it's still one of the most numerous warships in the Navy. There are plenty of ships that are more modern than her, but there are few which are more capable. So it's probably fair to say that the Type 23 remains the backbone of the Royal Navy. But don't just take our word for it. While on board, we spoke to Richmond's commander about the role she plays in the Royal Navy.
Yeah, Type 23 is designed predominantly as an anti-submarine warfare frigate. So we have an anti-submarine warfare helicopter, the Merlin. We have an extensive sonar array that we tow behind the ship, and other sonars as well. And we use all of that together to detect and trail, and ultimately, if required, prosecute submarines. And as part of the task group, we'll do that in defence of the HMS Prince of Wales. So the most important thing in the submarine is the sensors. It's detecting them. They're annoyingly difficult and they like to hide underwater. So the sonar, either listening for the submarine and the noise it makes, or using active sonar, so pushing noise out in the water that reflects back from the submarine, is the most important thing that we have to detect them and hold them at range, and hopefully outside the range of their weapons. In order to then prosecute them, we'll ideally use the Merlin helicopter or other helicopters within the force that can drop torpedoes onto that submarine at a safe distance away from us. But if it's closer, then we can use our own torpedoes fitted to the ship that we can fire from here.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the other weapon systems that you've got on board and what they're designed to do?
We start at the front with a 4.5 gun, predominantly used for anti-surface warfare or naval gunfire support for troops ashore. And the work back, we've then got the Sea Scepter missile system, which is relatively new for the Type 23s, but also going on to our newer ships as well. And we used that at Anchor last year against the Houthis in the Red Sea to great effect. We've also got some closer range guns, 30mm heavy machine guns and GPMGs, general purpose machine guns, which we use for close-in defence against air and surface targets.
So you guys obviously deployed to the Red Sea where you were looking after international shipping from the Houthis. Talk to us a little bit about what engaging them was like and how a warship feels at full battle stations.
Professionally extremely rewarding. It was a very short deployment. We were out for sort of 3 months in total from when we sailed to when we returned to Devonport. But it was busy. We went at short notice. We had to do a lot of training to get ready to go in. We did that. We got there in a good state. Unlike this deployment where we're with a task group and there's lots of other ships, we spent a lot of time on our own, being controlled by UKMCC in Bahrain and working with the Americans, but spread out over a large area to maximise the protection that we could offer to merchant shipping. So a lot of time under threat. We were within range of Houthi weapons for the vast majority of our time that we were out there. And that takes a toll on people, but the ship's company stood up to it remarkably well. Everyone did their job, and when we were attacked, everyone rose to it.
How many times did you come under attack, and what's it like being on a warship when you're kind of at full battle stations?
So there was a few occasions where weapons were fired near us and we weren't sure whether we were the target or not. Fortunately, we weren't. But there was one occasion towards the end when we did come under attack. The Houthis fired approximately 37 UAVs out into the Red Sea, into the Gulf of Aden. Several came towards us, and one in particular was definitely targeting us. And we went to action stations. Ship's company were ready. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning when it started, which was a rude awakening for many. But half the ship's company were already awake because that's how we operate. So we were ready to fight at a moment's notice.
What's this deployment been like, and how have you found it?
It's hard work at times, but it's a 7.5-month deployment, so there's a balance to be struck. And we had a really intensive period at the start as we got all the ships together, getting us ready to go into the Red Sea because there's a threat that's still there, and we need to be ready to do that, which we did. But that was pretty high intensity training. Task group came through, and then it's eased off a little bit since then as we've got into a steady state, and everyone's getting much more au fait with how we operate together. But now we're in Talisman Sabre. It's much more high intensity again. We're really working the jets and working the rest of the task group to support that. So it's a very large exercise, predominantly designed from our perspective in order to exercise Prince of Wales and the carrier air wing in order to demonstrate that we can conduct strike operations and exercise the full range of duties that a carrier strike group is supposed to do in terms of projecting power and influence where it's required by His Majesty's government. For us, a lot of that time is going to be spent in support. We'll exercise them with the ASW and any surface warfare things that we all do as part of that task group. But the main focus is on getting the strike group to project that power ashore.
What does it mean for you guys to be here in this part of the world?
This is an area we don't operate in, so it's really good for us to come and operate in different areas. I've got some members of my ship's company that came out here on the last carrier strike deployment in 2021, so it's good to have that experience. Operating with allies such as Australia, New Zealand, Indonesia is always fantastic, and we can learn a lot from each other. We've had a lot of fun, particularly with the Kiwi ship that we've operated with quite closely over the last few days. But from a personal level, from the ship's company, they're coming to see the world. And people still join the Navy to see the world, and we spend a lot more time in the North Atlantic, and on this class of ship in particular because of what it does. We spend a lot of time around UK waters than in the North Atlantic protecting critical national infrastructure and the UK mainland. So for us to get the opportunity in this ship to come out here doesn't happen very often, and therefore it's a great opportunity for our sailors to see the world and get some memories.
HMS Richmond, obviously much smaller than the Prince of Wales. Talk to me about what life is like on a warship of this size.
It's a different role, it's a different type of ship. You've got far fewer people, but you've also got much less space. She's a little bit older as well, so in terms of some of the standards of living that you'll see on the Prince of Wales in space and cabins and domestic facilities, we're not quite there because we were designed over 30 years ago. But it's a close-knit team. It's the camaraderie that I would say is the most important thing. 200 people, you can pretty much get to know everybody, whether you want to or not. But it's a close-knit team. We've been together a while, most of us, so we know each other fairly well. We work well together, and there's a real team ethos as we, whatever we're tasked to do from the carrier, we just get on and we do it. We ask a lot of them. 7.5 months away from family, friends, home is a huge ask for anybody. And when you look at the average age of people on here, it's in the low 20s. So we've got, a really junior team in terms of age. Some of them have got loads of experience, but there's only probably about a third of them left from when I went to the Red Sea last year. So, because the Navy's constantly moving people around. People promote new ships to get new experiences. So hopefully you'll see what a professional team they are, a fun team they are. They absolutely get the balance of knowing when to have fun and knowing when to flick the switch and work really hard and dig out blind. And they're delivering in spades. As I said earlier, it's a 7.5 month deployment, so it's a marathon and not a sprint. and they've all bought into that, and they're delivering for me in spades, really. So as much as I can show them off. I think this is a big ship, because most of my career has been spent in even smaller ships than this, with teams of, well, 6 or 30, 40 people. So coming on here, to me, this is big. If people get together to do things as a team, and so we are one team. I think on the carrier, due to its size, you know, you have your squadrons and your departments, and people are maybe a little bit in those groups. Not because they're not social, it's just because it's absolutely huge, and you're not going to remember all those people, right? So, but on here, you know, we're in a small metal box that's 133 meters long. So you're gonna get to know everybody, as I say, whether you want to or not. It's okay.
That's where this tape stops, but we'll be back soon to play you through another episode of War on Tape. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you want more videos like this in your feed, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.